everyone, I'm Meredith, and listen, I'm just a girl stuck in my apartment looking for someone to talk to. So I found some people. My guest today is actor, producer, and now author Ashley Kate Adams. Her upcoming book, #BYOP, Be Your Own Producer, is a must read for those in the theater or entertainment business as a whole who, because of the pandemic or otherwise, are just tired of waiting to make new art and are ready to get out there and do it on their own. But before Ashley and I get into all of that, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Let's Talk About It YouTube channel. I don't want you missing new episodes. And make sure you hit that little notification bell right there. This way you'll never miss a video. So go ahead, like and subscribe, notification bell too. Ashley and I will wait. Did you do it? Okay, great. Ashley, thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it. Thank you so much, Meredith, for having me. I can't wait.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So take me back. Your background before you got into producing was as a performer. So how did one lead to the other?
So it's very interesting because when I look back at my performing life, I can see moments where the producer kind of popped up with like creating original work, even back in high school and performing arts high school and college days at Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. But I think the largest shift was I immediately came out of, that incredibly intense program of CCM for musical theater, moved right to the city, got my agent and made my Broadway debut at the age of 23 in the Tony Award-winning revival of La Cage aux Folles. And what's fascinating is I joined the company as an immediate replacement on a Tuesday, and Wednesday in the middle of our matinee show, we basically got the note that said, could we please have the full company, meet us at the house in between the shows? And we got told that the show would be closing in a month. And I think to experience your childhood dream coming true and also being told that you're going to be losing it within 24 hours, like that has a profound effect on everything within you. And in that moment, I knew I could not only perform for the rest of my life. Acting is still a massive part of my identity and my hyphens. And, but it's so exciting because I feel like producing has allowed me to keep a joyful longevity in the arts. And so, so I moved on to go on the first national tour of La Cage the next year. And we hit great places like the Fox and the Kennedy Center. But by day, I was launching my production company, AK Studio Productions. And now we've been rocking and rolling for the past 9 years.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. So what were like some of the first hurdles that you had to overcome as really full-time actor, producer, producer by day, actor, performer by night with AK?
It is kind of an identity thing to where people in the business, see you as one way. And we're actually teaching a class this evening called Multi-Hype about this. Some people get intimidated because they're afraid that if they identify in more than one artistic way within the industry, people might judge you or second guess you or think, you don't have enough time on your hands to be, faithfully devoted to each project. But I truly believe that it only helps to elevate, everything. But it's through this that I got to just create more immediate opportunities for myself as a creative. But it really was time management. It was getting my name out there, finding ways to be present still in shows as an actress while also building the company, specifically from a business standpoint, literally all day during the day, because the hours are also very different for the artists. So you've got, the biz, which runs kind of like 9 to 7, but then, it's like the entertainment industry is wide open in the evening. So also like finding those balances of how to navigate those working hours and also take care of myself so I can be fully present for both,
24/7 then at first, if you were performing at night and then launching a company during the day.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, but I have found a way for it to work throughout the years. And, you know, there's sometimes where I have to give myself a bit more of a break in the afternoon. Like tonight, I know I'm going to 10 p.m. and Sunday, I know there is a presentation. And actually we have a read through this Saturday as well. So I try to find pockets where it's like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to be a human, you know, for 2 hours between 2 and 4, you know, on a Wednesday, so I can be fully present and zoned in, you know, say on a Saturday afternoon.
Absolutely. What did you find, I guess, was the most gratifying aspects of producing early on when those initial projects came along? Like, how did you know for yourself this was going to stick? I was on a right path, both as, you know, still holding on as a performer, but now moving in an additional direction.
Yeah, truly asserting my independent creative freedom. That was the most gratifying, was to know that I was an active content creator, and that regardless of someone giving me permission, I was giving myself permission to create. And that's actually chapter 1 in the book. No one can give you permission to create but yourself. And it was just living presently in that joy that I could make anything happen for myself as an actor or as a producer or content creator if I was willing to do the hard work.
How much of that did you have to overcome, or like self, you know, rationalize? As an actor, it's the other way around, right? Or at least
it is.
Here's the project, here's the role, here's the direction, go do. And now
right.
And now you have the producing side of you starting to come out, where, as you said, it's that independence and that creative ability to just go and make it happen yourself.
Right. It is changing a bit of a mindset, right? And it's that moment of giving yourself kind of like a bit more credit and a bit more power, and recognizing the ability that you have, right? As actors, it's so odd because we're always invited to do things, right? And it was that idea of understanding, okay, if some director or casting director does not allow me into the room, or say that I am that one girl out of the thousands for the job, that I wouldn't be able to do what I loved to do. And that has a profound, you know, effect on your creativity, right? So yeah, I opted for, let's just do it all at the same time and be completely present in all of it, and see how it also can help, you know, the other field as well.
I want to get into that, how I'm sure both bled into each other, right?
Yes.
Both through these experiences, the actor, the producer side of you, how did you translate that all into author Ashley now with hashtag BYOP, or is it BYOP?
No, it is BYOP. Okay. So be your own producer.
BYOP. How have you translated those experiences and those lessons now to a book?
Well, it was realizing that moment of giving myself freedom was something that multiple artists, especially actors, dealt with on a daily. And I realized, because of the pandemic, you know, I have gone through tragedy in my life. I unfortunately lost my father 4 years ago unexpectedly from cancer. And to be gutted out in that way, personally and as a creative, I was able to kind of refine my footing just this year, kind of as the world was, you know, kind of falling apart. Right. And so I was able to realize that my kind of navigation of grief and creativity could really help elevate and inspire others as they were going through the hard time. And it was interesting. I just met with my lit agent in February, and I just said calmly, I was like, do you think maybe one day BYOP, the brand, could turn into a book? And she was like, I think you should really kind of like think on that, meditate it, mull it over for a little bit. And then what was fascinating is at the beginning of March, I made like the pitch document, if you will, that would be shared with publishers. And then I got a deal 2 months later because I was prepared. And I actually wrote the book in 40 writing days in July and August this year. And now we have a book. But what I realized was those general teachings could actually be used to help each other, to help others in a larger way. And so now we've translated all these teachings and everything that I do one-on-one with BYOP clients. So it originally started with me just working one-on-one with up-and-coming producers or artists who wanted to create their own content and material. And now we've taken those teachings, turned them into more of like group information, if you will, that I could kind of speak to a group, if you will, instead of one-on-one, a bit more general. And then that is information that you find in the book, and it leads the reader and the artist through their own creative, authentic journey, recognizing that one new, later, greatest idea that they want to take action on, and literally following them through step by step throughout the book, and then celebrating it.
Unbelievable. But take me back to March, when the pandemic hit. What happened to your work? Where were things?
Yes.
What happened as both the producer side and the performer side? What's been going on?
What's so fascinating about the pandemic is the way that I was living by being my own producer and creating my own work and finding the freedom within the confined space, navigating the twists and the turns literally for the past decade. It prepared me. So now during this time when no one really knows how to make work without being self-sufficient, right? And having their individual teams where people aren't necessarily always on a direct payroll, right? It's like, it's time for all of us, the independent artists who have been actively pieces, I feel like a backbone of the industry, but that don't always get, the exact acknowledgement or focus, right? It's odd that we're the ones that are thriving right now because we've always been here. We've always been making things consistently, regardless if people are paying attention or not. And so it is really excited for like my creative brothers and sisters. I mean, we've got another event coming up next Thursday called One Mic Christmas, where we've created this incredible event to support Music Cares, the Grammy Foundation that's supporting artists through COVID. And it's all the same team that I've been working with for the past decade, making television shows with and web series, and Patrick, who's producing it, designed my book cover. And it's really cool that we're just continuing to step forward and literally do it ourselves, regardless of anyone telling us to or inviting us to. We're just saying, no, we have worthy stories and we're here. Here it is,
Right. What are the, the mechanical lessons that you want other artists to know, or other industry members in general, about why independent artists, independent producers are able to get the work going again, and or rather haven't stopped? I mean, Broadway's been shut down. New York theater's been shut down since mid-March, since the pandemic.
That's right.
Here is the new touch point is June. We don't know though. We don't.
You're right.
Live theater and entertainment is going to come back in those more formal settings, but independent artists and independent producers haven't stopped. So what's the lesson that you can impart on the rest of the industry of how you're still doing it when others aren't? Or others aren't able to, let me say that.
Yeah, and what you're so eloquently talking about is the commercial part of our entertainment industry. There is a whole other group of artists that are working just as hard without that extra check from Warner Brothers, Disney, or Sony. But we are the same artists that they hire on their payroll. So I do believe that independent artists are the gate, if you will, into the future. And as we've seen, many agencies, many places are starting to let go. It's so sad of staff. But all I want to say is that we are the heartbeat because we're the ones making the content in the first place. And that's why I want to encourage artists that's like, your time is now. If you've ever wanted to produce your own web series inside of your home or create, your own talk show even, right? Now is the time, because we have the time as the artist, and also, right, as the receiver, as the person who's taking in the content. We're hungry for new and exciting content, because right now, right, it's like those studios, they might not have their payroll active so people can be working under them, even in media. But you're still here doing incredible work, and making something that's so authentic to you, So we're still here we're still hungry and we are still working. So I believe we're the way into the future.
I hope so. I hope so. But how important is it for really all artists to be hearing this right now? I mean, not to be holding on and depending on those commercial producers,
right.
productions. Like if you're just waiting for the call that Broadway is open again, what do you fear is the likely outcome?
You know, we're taught as actors, sadly, it's like you're a dime a dozen. And we are here to encourage you that no, you are not a dime a dozen. You have your own authentic stories that you need to be telling, regardless if anyone else immediately thinks they're worthy or not. They are worthy. And I do believe if you use your voice, you will find your audience. It's the whole leap and the net will appear thing. Here's the deal. Commercial Broadway, commercial industry, television, film, you know, those studio heads, Walt Disney, right? They all had to start somewhere. And that veil, if you will, it's becoming quite thin. Yeah. So I want to encourage artists, especially actors, to create their own material, to get themselves out there so they don't have to ever feel like they have to wait on anyone to get their stories and their voice heard. I mean, it's important to...
I grew up in community theater. You're taught as an actor that mentality of hurry up and wait. And I don't think people can do that anymore. It's not going to be sustainable.
That's right. You're exactly right. It's not sustainable. And you're going to get burnt out if every day you bust your tail for the sake of others and kind of ignore, you know, what's inside and what you need to do as an artist, right? That hurts. It's painful. And then, right, a year will go by and there could be that, as you were saying, that unfortunate thing where maybe there isn't any forward motion. But imagine if you're like creating alongside, and if you're talking about it basically from an actor standpoint, imagine there's so much more to talk about when you're in the room or at your cabaret or when you're finally getting to do that exciting original Broadway production, right?
What kind of change would you like to see going forward so there's more room for all of us?
Yeah, I think it's almost like, you know, okay, I've been reading Bob Iger's book about how when he stepped in as CEO of Disney, and he had this really interesting transition where there was like a planning group that was running all of the Disney infrastructure, period, that it almost like took power away from the business and the content creators. And so it made them feel like it's like they weren't ever really truly able to contribute. And so I truly believe, kind of as he did for Disney, you know, the Broadway industry and the television and film industry can do for independent artists and independent creators. I think it's allowing them almost as freelancers to have, you know, more of an active say in these larger structured companies. But even if they don't open the gates, I think many of those companies will be forced to kind of do more of like a freelance structure, if you will, to then allow those content creators in more positions of powers within, like, you know, the larger companies, if you will, because if they're going to be the ones that's making the content anyway, right? It's like, shouldn't they have a say as to where we should be going next? I mean, it's like if they're the people who have their finger on the pulse of content and what people want to see and take in and watch, it's like maybe they should be in some of more of those leadership positions.
And what's your best advice for those who might want to get into a more producerial role but are intimidated? I mean, I know, not that I'm on that route, but just it's scary to say I'm going to do something on my own.
It is scary. I would recommend, you know, getting a copy of the book because it gives you a play-by-play, but some of those things that we discuss in the book are, you know, creating a set schedule. We discuss how to pick your collaborators and your team wisely so you know that you're sharing your artistic content with people like who deserve to hear it and who will also help to nurture it and keep it safe. I'd say even if something intimidates you, one thing we talk about in the book is, I like to call it an hour a day. Even when I'm an actor and a producer. When I started writing screenplays, that was unbelievably intimidating to me. When I started writing the book, that was unbelievably intimidating to me. So there's that whole meta vibe with the book as well, right? Where it's like, I'm doing something new for the first time right now, but look, we're doing it together. But 1 hour a day really helped me, because what happens is, if you make that schedule where you're like, I'm going to give myself an hour a day to work on this scary thing, or even an hour or 2 hours a week, those things start to add up, right? And it becomes quite large, and you've created space for that property in your life. And then all of a sudden, look, it's like you've done all this work. And then the other thing is, consistency is key. That is the biggest thing, especially, right? It's like when you're starting a new show or a new podcast, you truly have to consistently push something out in the world for multiple months in advance to even get feedback, right, from the world before you know, right, if you need to make changes, if you need to strategize differently, have different marketing or social media campaigns. So I'd say consistency as well. So schedule, getting the proper teams to collaborate with, trying an hour a day to give yourself the creative space and time to actually work on what you value, and consistency.
Absolutely. Well, Ashley, these are such invaluable lessons. And I mean, if I can do it, I would say you can do it. So
that's right.
I'm a small example, but Ashley,
and you're doing great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to read your book, #BYOP, Be Your Own Producer. Look out for that. Great lessons. Ashley, thank you so much for joining me. This has been Let's Talk About It. We'll talk to you next time.